Hello friends, it's your old pal the Colonel here. Welcome back to another episode of Gold Coast Beamer's Garage. If you remember last week, we talked about how to repair your tire when you get an unexpected flat on the side of the road. This week we're going to talk about how do you put some air back in that tire once you get it plugged and you're ready to go. So we've got three different portable pumps today that we can take a look at. We've got an inexpensive pump, kind of a medium price pump, and the expensive spread here, this pump. So let's take a minute to talk about each one of them. This one is made by a company called Slime. You've probably heard of Slime before. Pretty decent pump. You can read the reviews on it. Some people said it works great every time I use it. Other people say I tried it once and it quit. It comes with a hose and an attachment to hook up to your bike, and pretty straightforward pump. The next one is made by Dynaplug. Dynaplug is a pretty interesting little pump. This is a small pump, very light, very compact. Again, comes with the hose and a plug up to your battery tender lead. And this one retails for about $60. If I didn't mention it, the Slime is about $40. This pump has been around for years and years and years, called Cycle Pump. You've probably seen it advertised in magazines in the red bag. Very sturdy, got a metal case. These retail nowadays for about $120, $130. I bought this one used a couple of years ago, but it's a high quality pump, a little bit bulky, a little bit heavy. The common thing about all of these is that they attach to the battery tender lead on your motorcycle. That's where they get their power. Now, something to consider is how many amps do these pumps draw? Cycle Pump, on the back of it, says connect to a 10 to 15 amp fused power supply. Okay. Slime says 10 amps. Dynaplug is 4 amps. Okay. So let's think for a minute and assume this is your battery tender lead, even though it's got a couple alligator clips on the end. Just imagine these are ring terminals and that's what you've attached to your battery, and this hangs out under your seat or hangs down wherever your hangs down. And all of these battery tender leads come with a fuse in it. It's a fuse line, and when you pull that fuse out and take a look at it, it says 7.5 amps. Now, if you connect this pump or this pump to your battery tender lead with a 7.5 amp fuse in it, it ain't gonna work. So what's the solution? Well, you could always put a larger fuse in here, but that's not really the solution, because that'll just overheat the wiring, and then you'll have at best a meltdown and maybe a fire. So the real solution is get a lead that's made of heavier gauge wire and has a larger capacity for a fuse. And it just so happens that there's a vendor that's always supported us at our annual picnic. Every year has supplied us with raffle prizes by the name of Burns Moto. B-U-R-N-S-M-O-T-O. You can look up Burns Moto online, and they sell a heavy-duty battery tender lead made of 16 gauge wire with a 15 amp fuse in it. So if you use that for your battery tender lead, you can run any of these pumps and not run the risk of blowing the fuse, because I'll guarantee you, they will blow that fuse right out. The other alternative is this Dynapump only pulls 4 amps. So you can clearly use that with a 7.5 amp fuse. So depending on what you currently have, you may want to look and determine how many amps it draws, and if you don't have the right lead, go visit Burns Moto and get that heavy duty lead. So those are the three inflators. Generally, as a rule of thumb, the more amps it draws, the bigger the pump is and the faster it'll pump your tire up. But there's still another option, and that's good old CO2 bottles. Now, these have been around for a long time. I've had this little kit for a long time. And it contains, this one, 4 of these small CO2 bottles. These are 16 gram bottles, fairly common size. They come in larger sizes. But the way these work is it comes with a little attachment tube This end screws on to the valve stem, sticks out. This end you screw in here, and when you screw it down tight, there's a little pin in there, and it presses the end, opens it up, and you'll hear it go whoosh in there. Now, when it goes whoosh, this thing gets really, really cold, like frostbite kind of cold. So these happen to have this little styrofoam jacket on it, but it's a good idea when you're using these to keep your motorcycle gloves on. A lot of the kits don't have any way to protect you, so keep your motorcycle gloves on. Now, so you run the first bottle in, so now you got to put the second bottle in. What do? Well, don't take this bottle out, because as soon as you do, it'll all go out. What you want to do is, while this bottle is still connected, unscrew it from the valve stem, okay? Take it out, screw another bottle on there, screw it down, not to where it punctures the bottle, but almost, and put it back on, then screw it down there, and you'll get it. Now, 4 bottles, from what I've read, 4 bottles will inflate a standard rear tire on a motorcycle to about 20 pounds PSI. It's not ideal. It's probably enough to get you down the road to where you can get some more air. But the other downside to this, in my mind, is let's say you put your 4 bottles in there and you look and your tire is still leaking. Your plug, for whatever reason, didn't work. Whether it's a mushroom or a string plug, and you're looking at it thinking, man, I need to do this again. I need to replug this thing. So, you know, if you do that, now you're sunk. You've used all your air. You got no way to inflate your tire again. So, in my mind, I prefer one of these pumps, because you can use it over and over again. And again, you know, be sure you've got the right lead. And look, a lot of people buy a pump, throw it in the bike, and they never even hook it up to their bike to see if it's going to work. My advice is, if you got a pump, you know, let some air out of your tire, hook it back up there, try it out, be sure it's going to work. So when you get to the side of the road, you know what you're doing, and don't find out, well, geez, it doesn't fit my valve stem the right way because the chuck doesn't fit the way the valve stem is. That's not a good time to find out that you've made those mistakes. So anyway, that's pretty much what it is for your options on inflators. That'll be today's show. We'll look for you next week. As always, I'd like to thank our production assistant, Mary Lou, my sweetheart Miller, our staff dermatologist, Dr. Ivan Awfulich, our spokesperson, Lotta B. Essen, and as always, our motorcycle repair advisor, Anita Hammer. So tune in next week for another episode. In the meantime, if you're out riding your motorcycle, be aware, take care. We'll see you next week.